How many of you remember your very first encounter with a cop while driving a car? Quick show of hands. Five years back, I was relatively new to driving a car in US. Back then, I was living in Green Bay, Wisconsin. During one of the weekends, I happened to visit one of my friends in Chicago, and I was returning back to Green Bay via road. I had a car which was Chevy Impala. It was technically a lease without a lease. Let me explain how it works. The car was rented by a person without an official documentation. The person is a US citizen as well as a Canadian citizen. What he does for business is he drives across to the border to Canada and purchases old, used, but drivable cars. And what happens is he gets the car across the border, changes the registration, and brings it across, and he rents it out to folks, particularly like us. Since I was a new driver, I didn't invest on buying a new car, but I happened to lease the car from him by just paying month on month. So the way it works is the car is registered under his name, but I need to take a full insurance. The car was a metallic silver color, and it is a 6-cylinder engine car. I happen to know it only after I got to use that car. It was a pretty neat sedan, and it was a pretty comfortable car which could easily sit 5 people on a long drive. On that day back, it was pretty cold during my drive from Chicago to Green Bay. If you are familiar with the terrain, it's a pretty flat route. And when I crossed halfway through Milwaukee, there was a quick flash of lights, blue and red. I could sense a kind of a rhythm in those lights. Probably if I had not stopped a bit sooner, I would have definitely sensed a rhythm of sound of the lights. I just stopped in the shoulders, just like how I have heard from a lot of people who have been stopped by a cop. And I just made sure that I had my hands visible so that I was not a threat to the cops. They just came by. When I lowered the window, it was pretty cold. It was probably a January cold, and the temperatures were single digits during that time. I had the heater on. Still, I could feel the goosebumps just like a normal person, even though you don't do any kind of a mistake. You sense a kind of a tremor in your legs. But when the cop is right next to you, you just need to make sure that you are hiding that tremor in your legs and just your voice is not shaking. I tried hard doing that, but I couldn't control much. So it grew into more suspicion for the cop. He asked for my driver's license. I just pulled out from my wallet, which was right in front of me, and just showed to him. He went behind his vehicle. There were probably 4 or 5 colleagues of him in 2 police vehicles. I was kind of nervous. I was panicking. And at the same time, I was feeling cold. He ran through the driver's license, and it took probably 4 or 5 minutes for him to verify everything. He came back and asked for the registration of the car. So I tried to explain him what the story of the car is. Probably he tried to make sense. So let me explain how the car's registration works. I just explained him the pretty much the same thing. Like the car was bought in Canada, it was brought across, and it was on a temporary registration. And the temporary registration unfortunately had expired 5 days ago. So, who runs the car without registration plates and the temporary plates expired? Who all does that? So the cops now ask me to step out of the vehicle and do some kind of a inspection. They just ask few questions like, did you carry drugs? Are you carrying any drugs? Did you carry any drugs previously? Even though I know consciously that I had done anything, the way the questions were asked to me, probably I felt, maybe did I really carry unconsciously? Or did the previous car owner really had it? I was literally scared. I kind of confidently said, nope. But inside, all the confusions arose. You should have sensed the rhythm of my heart during that time. It was pure panic. And during that time, the cops told that they had to do some kind of inspection. The inspection was with a dog. I am extremely scared of dogs. So when they mentioned that, I probably shivered. But then I said that, okay, please go ahead and do that. Then the dogs just sniffed around me. I just kind of shook a little bit, and they opened the trunks and they did the thorough inspection. And then they came to the same conclusion which I told. Yes, I didn't carry any kind of drugs. Then the cops just went back again to their vehicles and did some kind of checks with respect to registration. Looks like it came back clean, luckily. So I was happy this time, though. Then they came back with a kind of a ticket which mentioned that I had to pay around $98 or get a registration and go to a police booth and verify that the registration was valid and performed. Then they let me go. Finally, my panic started to abate and I switched on the heaters in full mode and I started back the travel. It was a big relief. My first encounter with the cops was a memorable one while driving a vehicle. Do you want to hear how I happened to encounter cops again with the bicycles? Wait for my next speech.